व्हाट्सअप गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल रैंडम स्टफ विद मोमिना। और आज मैं रिएक्शन वीडियो कर रही हूँ एक मदर एंड आई फाउंड आउट हॉरिबल सीक्रेट्स ऑफ माय सिस्टर ऑन ईस्टर। लेट्स स्टार्ट।
I found out my sister's horrible secret on Easter night. Hi, my name is Eli, 15 years old. Ever since my father passed away, my family's life took a worse turn. Seemed like every member of the family had their own private life and no longer bonded with each other like before.
ये इतनी जल्दी सैड कैसे हो गई? सैड से डेवियस होगी क्या ये?
Until Easter Day that year, one strange thing happened. According to Doris, my sister, it was the return of my dad's soul. It took 6 months for my mom to recover from the pain of losing her husband. She became stronger, wiped away the tears, and looked for a new job to support the family.
Literally अभी ये हुआ है, stronger. Literally 3 steps. 3 steps.
Something she stopped doing ever since she was married to my dad. Maybe it was because of constant worries and work pressure that my mom no longer smiled. She worked 2 jobs at the same time and often appeared to be very tired whenever she was back home. The house got so dark and cold without her brightness. I miss Dad a lot. At times like that, I would hide in a quiet place and look at his pictures. But perhaps the one who took it the hardest was Doris, my 6-year-old sister. She always sulked and wanted to go back to the happy times. Aside from going to school, I often had to spend time looking after my sister because Mom had to work all day, so it drove me crazy when she talked about Dad all the time. I knew how sad my sister was and how hard it was to accept the fact that Father had passed away. But she kept on talking about him, and that only made things worse. Once, I got pissed at Doris. I shouted at her saying that Dad had passed away. He couldn't listen to what she said, and our life would never remain the same like before. I knew I was a bit harsh, but my sister needed to understand and move on.
वो सैड है कि उसके अब्बू मर गए। अब तुम उसके ऊपर चीख रही हो कि मैं हर वक्त उसके बारे में बात कर रही है। शायद उसके अब्बू उसके फेवरेट थे। What? अब हम बात करते हैं, मेरा भाई भी थोड़ा सा annoying है, लेकिन मैं तो उसके ऊपर कभी नहीं चीखती। What? Okay.
Doris got so angry hearing that. She screamed at me and called me the worst sister in the world. How ill-mannered. I furiously went back to my room, leaving her crying alone there. Since that incident, Doris stopped talking to me. She became silent and no longer energetic as before. My sister always tried to avoid me and was annoyed whenever I approached her. Seemed like she was still very angry. She needed time to accept the truth. I thought so and also tried to ignore my sibling. I saw it as a way to help her grow. Many things happened afterwards and it took my attention away from her.
पहली बात, ये तुम्हें शर्ट कहाँ से मिली? मुझे ये पुसी कैट वाली शर्ट चाहिए। Sorry for the interruption, but ये कैट बहुत क्यूट है और ये शर्ट बहुत अच्छी है। मुझे प्लीज बताओ मैं कहाँ से ये शर्ट ले सकती हूँ?
As for my mom, she was too busy with her job. She worked all day and had no time to care about her children's troubles. My mother was tired enough and I didn't want to bother her, but the atmosphere at home became more distant. We didn't talk much anymore. Until one day, I suddenly found out about my sister's unusual behavior. Occasionally, I would see her smiling by herself and seemed like she was trying to talk to someone. But when I came to check, nothing was out of the ordinary. I tried to ask her, but she always kept quiet and went to her room. But that wasn't all. Every morning when I woke up, I always got startled because my sister was staring at me with strange eyes. I panicked and asked her to stop that freaky action, but again, she remained silent and
इसकी सिस्टर भूत है। इससे सिर्फ एक एक्सप्लेनेशन है, ये इसकी सिस्टर भूत है। अगर मेरा भाई ऐसे कर रहा होता है, मैं लिटरली अपने घर से बाहर मैं निकल रही हूँ घर से, मैं यहाँ पे नहीं रह सकती किसी भूत के साथ। इमेजिन करो आप सो रहे हैं, आप उठे और आपके सिस्टर ब्रदर जो भी ऐसे देख रहे हैं आपको। Okay.
Left. Doris became increasingly weird. She always laughed and talked by herself, her acting sneaky as if she was hiding something. Was she having psychological problems, or was she simply playing tricks to tease me? Since then, I began to pay more attention to my sister. Doris's strange actions continued for days later, and it made me so confused. Until one day, a bizarre thing happened, and I suppose that was the reason for all. At midnight that day while I was sleeping, I was woken up by a strange sound. I panicked and looked for my sister and discovered that she had disappeared. I hurriedly went to the attic where the sound came from to look for my sister. I assumed she made that noise, and as I thought, indeed, Doris was there. Looking from behind, I saw her sitting at the center of a circle, surrounded by half-burned candles. She was doing something very suspicious on the floor. What the hell are you...
ये अच्छा ठीक है, आप घर पे रह रहे हो और आपकी सिबलिंग इस तरह से वियर्ड एक्ट कर रही है, चलो ठीक है अगर आपके लिए नॉर्मल है, लेकिन ये कर रही है तो भागो, अपनी अम्मी अब्बू को बताओ स्ट्रेसफुल है या नहीं है। आपके घर पर कोई भूत समन कर रहा है, क्या हो रही है? भाई मुझे अभी तक डर लगता है भूतों से, मुझे पता है इसलिए नहीं है, मुझे फिर भी डर लगता है। अगर आपका कोई सिबलिंग ऐसे कर रहा है तो आप क्या करेंगे? आप भागेंगे? ये बैठे अबे तुम कर क्या रही हो? ये तो देखो, ऐसे कौन करता है?
Doing? I asked her loudly. Doris startled and turned around. She hurriedly hid what was laying on the floor. I curiously approached her and tried to take that thing. Unbelievable! It was a Ouija board. Why is she playing with this evil thing? I immediately interrogated her. Doris angrily shouted that I ruined her magic session. She explained that she stumbled across the board in a secondhand shop. After knowing that the object could call the soul of the dead, she decided to bring it home to summon our father's soul. She missed him very much. How foolish she was to believe it. I demanded my sister go back to her room. At first she refused and declared that our father would definitely return. But facing my seriousness, she reluctantly complied. I sighed heavily when I had to clean up the mess left by her.
What? You know what? ये literally stupid है. ये इसकी सिस्टर इससे ज़्यादा स्मार्ट है. भाई अगर तुम्हारी सिस्टर के अंदर कोई भूत चला गया तो अगर मेरे भाई इस तरह से कर रहा होता ना, मैं ना जाए नमाज पे बैठ कर तस्बीह पढ़ना शुरू हो जाती, अल्लाह अल्लाह मेरे भाई को क्या हो गया। लेकिन ये तो पागल बैठी हुई है। अबे तुम्हें क्या हो गया? चलो अपने रूम में वापस जाओ।
But as I touched the board, a strange sound came from the attic room. I shivered in fear and hurriedly threw the board on the floor and ran to my room. The next morning, I told my sister's story to my mother, but she only laughed and assumed it was just a kid's joke and didn't care about it. Even though my sister threw the board away after that, I was still quite scared. Strange things continued to happen. A few days later, we suddenly received a call from Uncle Tom, my father's brother. He said that this weekend he would visit our family for Easter. It had been a long time since my father died, and we hadn't seen him around. I love Uncle Tom so much and was excited to see him again. That day, my mother took an early break from work to prepare dinner. We made a wonderful honey-grilled ham to welcome Uncle Tom.
Honey-grilled ham? ठीक है?
After what we had finished cooking, we suddenly received a call from Uncle Tom informing that the plane was delayed, so he would arrive later than expected. So we all waited for Uncle Tom in the living room. A few hours passed, and yet to see him appear, we began to worry. At that moment, there was a loud noise upstairs, followed by a series of shattering sounds. We rushed upstairs to check. Mom and I screamed in horror when we saw the chaos there. Our furnitures were moved all over the place, and there was also shoe stains with blood on the floor. Dad, it's Dad, the Ouija worked. I shivered hearing what my sister said.
फाइनल स्टोरी में किसी एक्सरसिस्ट को बुला रही होती और फिर जब तक एक्सरसिस्ट अपना काम कर रहा होता मैं जायनमाज़ पे बैठ के जैसे मैं आपको बताया मैं तस्बीह बैठ कर तस्बीह पढ़ रही होती अल्लाह अल्लाह प्लीज ये क्या हो गया मेरे भाई को ये कुछ कर ही नहीं रही जैसे एटलीस्ट एक्सरसिस्ट को बुला लो.
Is it true? Mom tried to reassure us and track the blood stains. It led us to the attic and suddenly disappeared there. We slowly pushed open the door and entered. Blood stains were all over the floor. From an empty closet, a groan came, accompanied by the sound of nails scratching on the wooden surface. Suddenly, the closet shook. Mother and I were frightened, but Doris was strangely calm. She approached the cabinet door and opened it. From the inside, a tied dog covered with blood came into view. "Sam, are you okay?" Doris shouted. Mom and I looked at each other in bewilderment. She explained that the stray dog had followed her all the way home from school. Thinking that Dad had led him to her, she decided to adopt it. Knowing that my mother and I would disagree, she hid the dog in the attic and stealthily fed him every day. Her unusual behavior was because of that dog. Mother and I breathed a sigh of relief, but Doris suddenly burst into tears. She hugged Sam and said that someone had hurt this poor animal and hid it in the closet. Right that moment, the lights in the attic started to flicker, then went off. Powerful winds from outside started to blow in and toss the curtain over, revealing a dark shadow hiding there. "Dad, is that you?" Doris shouted and ran to embrace the dark shadow. "Stop!" My mom screamed, but we were too slow. The shadow pushed Doris aside and tried to escape. At that moment, I realized that it was exactly an intruder. Being discovered, he became fierce and rushed towards me, but Mom quickly stopped him. They wrestled on the floor. I ran to help my mother, but she was pushed back by him. At the most dangerous...
तो बेसिकली स्टोरी में क्या हुआ है एक बच्ची अपने अब्बू को वापस लेकर आने की कोशिश कर रही है. एक अम्मी ज़्यादातर काम कर रही है अपनी जॉब भी कर रही है और उसकी बड़ी बहन जो है उसको सब कुछ पता है कि ये हुआ उसने अम्मी को बता दिया. अम्मी उसे बिलीव नहीं कर रही और फिर वो छोटी बहन से अपने अब्बू को कोई इतना डेस्परेट भी नहीं होना चाहिए किसी को भी. ये मैं क्या देख रही हूँ?
Moment when my mom was about to be overpowered. From outside the door, Uncle Tom suddenly burst in and knocked him down quickly. After that, we immediately called the police. Not long after, the police appeared and arrested the intruder. He confessed that his first intention was to break into my house and steal valuable things. But unfortunately, he was discovered and bitten by the dog that Doris kept. He used the object on the table to knock the poor animal down, then tied it up and locked it in the closet. The objects were scattered on the floor were the results of that fight. The blood stains on the floor were also left by him and the dog. That very night, we took the poor dog to the vet. Luckily, he was not injured too badly and quickly recovered. My family decided to raise the dog, and Doris was very happy. After that horrible night, my mother and I learned a lesson. We easily got careless about our loved ones and made them feel lonely. It was our indifference that made Doris's mentality unstable. We needed to share and talk with each other more. That is the way to overcome the sorrow in life.
तो आप लोग ये कहना चाह रहे हो कि आपने विजी बोर्ड यूज किया और कोई भूत आपके घर पे नहीं घुसा? मुझे पता है स्टोरी में और भी बहुत कुछ हुआ है लेकिन मेन चीज़ ये हुई बच्ची ने विजी बोर्ड यूज़ किया है और कुछ नहीं हुआ. या तो विजी बोर्ड चलने से पहले बड़ी बहन आ गई होगी रोकने के लिए, लेकिन एक्चुअली यू नो व्हाट, आई एम डन विद दिस स्टोरी. मैंने ये क्या देख लिया. प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब दिस वीडियो ताकि ये मेरे जहन में नहीं हो. और बट प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब। और अगर आपको और रिएक्शन वीडियोस इस तरह की कोई वीडियोस चाहिए होंगी, आप मेरे इंस्टाग्राम पे DM करें momina.arts पर, और मैं आपसे बाद में मिलती हूँ। बाय बाय।